Welcome back, everybody, to the Safety Justice League podcast. We have to kind of do a new intro, maybe. I don't know. New platform, new intro, new phone, who dis. Welcome. So today we are stoked because we have people that we have met in real life. One person we met in virtual life, in real life as a, fractured collective, then all together. And one person that's completely new to the Safety Justice League universe, multiverse. So I want to start with the newbie. Chantel Gorton is here. And okay, you guys, if you saw her at ASSP Safety 2021, the girl is ripped, and she's
got better calves than I do.
Yeah, I mean, sad. So let's just get that,
dude. Those shoulder caps, what?
Superhero. So
I've been jump roping every day since I got back.
Motivation. We have Chantel Gorton with us, Rachel Walla with us, but you guys have met Rachel on the podcast. You can go back and listen to her episode again. You probably just should. So let's hear from Chantel and story, superhero style. Where did you come from and how did you get here?
Well, I came from Wisconsin, and I hope that alone just speaks for itself. I'm a Midwesterner through and through, which means I'm a really nice person at heart. No, but I spent the earlier part of my career as a PT, and I graduated just with a doctorate in physical therapy and got out of school and was like, I know nothing. Wow, this is amazing. So it was a bit of a challenge getting a start. And then my partner and I moved to Vietnam for 2 years. And this was maybe like a year and a half after I graduated. And we lived in Ho Chi Minh City. And at that time, it was 2011 to 2013. There was really nobody else there. And so I was considered like the expert. And I'm like, this is wrong. I just got out of school. I should definitely not be considered the expert. And when we came back, I knew I wanted to go back to school or do some more studying. And so in physical therapy, you do that through residency and then next a fellowship. And you do a residency because it's an easier way of studying for your boards. You can take the boards without it, but if you go through an entire year where you have physicians barking at you and telling you you're wrong and you should be doing it like X, Y, and Z, some of them were nicer than that, but some of them were really unpleasant. And that's where, so I went into sports medicine residency and I loved it. I worked with the professional hockey team in Boise, the Steelheads. And I had worked with a professional basketball team in Vietnam, but it was very, very low key, as in when I came back to the United States, I would buy all the athletic tape that I needed. And then I would bring it back to Vietnam with me. So it was really hard to get anything. And I would carry my massage table around with me everywhere. And we would travel to all the different countries.
It's like carrying her therapy table with her everywhere.
At that time, that thing was heavy too. And it was like a foldable massage table, right? But I would bring it to all of the different countries because we played Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore. And so and the practice gym, this is getting way off topic, but I know you all like this. The practice gym was not air conditioned in Ho Chi Minh City. It was for the games, not for practice. And afterwards I would come work on them and I would work on one and then I would tip it over to drain it. And I'd wipe it down with alcohol. It was that was the start of sports. And I don't know why I still loved it, but I did.
I wouldn't. So I'd be like, I'm out after the first one.
It's very messy. It's just mostly in Vietnam. But so I went into my residency and got schooled quite a bit better, got my board certification, and then went back into practicing. But I ended up just getting really, but bored isn't a good way of putting it. I just didn't feel like I went to sleep every night really convinced that was what I should be doing for my career. And I was working with a lot of white collar workers and non-professional athletes and professional athletes. And I say this fondly because they are, but I mean, athletes are kind of they have to be a little bit more narcissistic. And so they think mostly about themselves and how their bodies and their careers, because that is their career. So, but I just couldn't quite wrap my head around continuing with that. And then I met my boss, who's the owner of my company, and it was like eye-opening. He said, you know what, you can make this your sports medicine platform. Come to work for me. You can change it. Like, we will make an impact. And that's what he really sold me on, was we have a mission, and that's to change healthcare. And we're going to do it with the industrial athletes. And as I got to know them, it was like, yeah, this is the bread and butter of our society. These are the people who, manually work for a living. They genuinely work really, really, really hard for a living, and they don't know how to use their bodies well to stay out of an injury. They just keep working like machines, and then they break down and think, well, that's it. And it is so different.
That's always been something for me. Oh, go ahead, Debbie.
No, you finish.
Yeah. All right. So that is something that for me has been like just a hot button issue, because it's always perplexed me. And I've lifted for years. We've talked about what I do for fun on the show many times, but the idea that, and this is the go-to in almost every industry that I've worked, you get a soft tissue injury and they say, well, how much did it weigh? 50 pounds. Well, now you can't lift anything that's heavier than 45 pounds. And it's like, that's just dumb. Why can I go to the gym, and granted, it's a one repetition kind of thing, lift 400 pounds, and yet a worker can't repetitively lift 40, 50, 100, whatever it is, because you can do that safely if you know how. And I think that's amazing.
To be able to do it well, and we don't train for the repetition, right? And so what I also like to remind people is, yeah, we can lift heavy things multiple times, but we don't go to the gym and do that same thing every day. And we certainly don't do it for 8 to 10 hours a day. We only do it for a very short period of time. And then those that go to the gym and do that, they usually have a pretty consistent practice of stretching and nutrition and hydration. And so there are just so many things missing. Where do we start? Boy.
I don't know. I sometimes kind of cringe at the term industrial athlete, and I don't know. We don't have enough time to unpack that whole thing, but I mean, is that what we're going with? Does that appeal to a lot of workers? Is it the way to get them on board?
And some of them will laugh a little bit, but then as soon as I say, yeah, but you literally use your body for a living. That's what you use. You use your manual effort for a living. This is the same thing that athletes do. Why wouldn't you call yourself an industrial athlete? I think as soon as they start to hear some justification for it, then they're like, yeah, you know what? That's right. And once you start compounding that, like, industrial athletes don't work as physically hard as you do for as many hours as you do for as long of a career as you do either. So who should get the title here? And if you can spin it in a different light than they do usually, but probably first off,
So Abby, you had no problem with the working athletes at the expo, but all of a sudden the industrial.
No, it's one of the things that's missing, the hydration aspect, I guess.
Cowboys?
Oh yeah, that's what it is.
Something like that. I don't know. I've just seen some people cringe when they're like, "Oh, industrial athlete." I don't know. I might just have to get past it. But you're right, about like the prep and the recovery. Maybe that's a missing piece, is that our workers in the field aren't. And I think of construction when I think of this term industrial athlete. I know it applies to everybody, manufacturing and whatnot, but maybe the recovery, because a lot of times, I mean, this ages me, but a lot of times after work, everyone goes and pounds some beers, and then they, do it all again in the morning. So
you're 21.
Maybe this is where the safety alliance comes into play, and why you teamed up with Rachel, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all in moderation. Right?
Now that we brought Rachel into the conversation, which she's been in a lot of really good conversations. So how how did we come up with this idea of the Safety Alliance? How did you and Rachel join forces? Because y'all gave an amazing presentation at ASSP Safety Conference, which I really enjoyed. And I thought that a lot of the points that you were making are points that were missing inside of safety as a whole. So how did y'all come together to form, this super crew of Safety Alliance with Ally Safety and Safety Alliance together?
Well, we've known each other for a while. Actually, the company that Chantel works for, I was their first employee, I think. And I've worked for them as a contractor for, I don't know, like 6 or 7 years now, off and on. We just do projects. And I actually met Chantel, oddly enough, a few years ago. I was like traveling on my way through and I stopped by the headquarters of this company and I kind of pitched this idea I had about video safety toolbox talks. And Chantel happened to be one of the people in the room, and I had never met her before. So we met there and have been working together on projects pretty much ever since.
Yeah, we also meet IRL to talk about things besides work. And that might be, is that appropriate to use that acronym?
What do people talk about if not safety and, industrial athlete and recovering?
And cowboys.
What are you talking about?
We get together and we have, jam sessions, if you will, with substances and legal ones.
Hey, we're in Oregon. We're all three in Oregon, so it's,
I know.
That's true. Legal is a broad term here.
But yeah, and we would just bounce ideas off of each other over and over. And oftentimes so I'm a physical therapist, but I work in the industrial setting. I know, and I talk to a lot of safety professionals, but it's not my career. So I'm constantly asking questions. And I realize that I probably say things sometimes and they don't ask me for clarification. We do that all the time, right? We're talking with a professional. We don't ask for clarification because we're just like, oh yeah, whatever. But Rachel will, and she'll be like, hold up. What do you mean by that? And I'll have to explain it better. And she's like, oh, we don't think of it like that. And then we're like, oh, we got to talk about this. And it's really been eye-opening for me to talk like one-on-one with Rachel about things, and for both of us to say like, wait, explain this to me in detail. Explain it how you would explain it to a 5-year-old, because that's what I need in this.
Well, Rachel has to give an example.
So during our talk, we actually gave this example where, I'm talking about how in safety, we're always thinking about things for ergonomics like posture, force, and frequency. And it turns out they aren't all that. They aren't the biggest factors. And in fact, what do we say? Like, you're only going to prevent somewhere around 10 to 15% of injuries just by focusing on those alone. So Chantel and I were talking because we wanted to do a video together. We've done a couple, and you can check them out on my YouTube channel. We've done shoulder injury prevention and low back injury prevention. And Chantel starts explaining this stuff to me about what you actually have to think of. And it just like crushed my world, to put it lightly, because for you guys who've got your CSPs or done your ergonomics class stuff or ever done the NIOSH lifting equation, it just throws all that out the window as very irrelevant when we look at the whole scale of what's going on and what's happening with musculoskeletal injuries. So when Chantel explained that to me, it was hugely eye-opening. And I thought, why aren't we getting this level of training in safety that she's getting as a PT? And why are we so far disconnected on some of these things? Because really, we need to work together. We need to align and have an alliance so that we can be more effective.
Yeah, we need to align together. I think safety professionals fall into this trap of thinking they have to be the experts in everything. They have to know how to operate all the equipment and know all the physical therapy terms, and thus not ask questions of actual professionals who do this every day. So we need to get over ourselves. I think all of us here, we're over ourselves. I know some people that we all know that aren't.
Yeah, I would say there are a lot of people, medical professionals as well. I have to, people need to smack me on my ego every now and then just to be like, you don't know everything, Chantel. Like, but I know a lot. But, so when I started in this industry, I also knew nothing about industry. I didn't even know this was a career option Most PTs don't. We don't know anything about this. It's very foreign. We don't learn about it in school. We don't really learn ergonomics. We might learn about a desk setup, but that's as far as it goes. So I took the job and I was like, I'm in, like head first, let's go. And I spent probably a couple of years just diving into research, just anything I could find on industry and trying to figure out, what should I be focusing on? What should everybody else be focusing on? And slowly I also realized as our company grew and we had more clinicians coming in that a lot of them didn't know this either. So we started an entire continuing education arm where we take so once a month we do an hour and we just talk about how whatever relates to industry, right? How can we prevent injuries in industry? And we focus it on OSHA first aid because that's what we have in our back pockets in the workplace. And so I think that there's both on both ends. There's a lot for clinicians to learn on that side. And there's a lot for safety professionals to learn. Yeah. So it's a good collaboration.
That's a great point because there's something that irks me to no end that safety professionals are terrible about. And that is, a new assignment comes up. Let's say we're working in some, we'll say just a manufacturing facility that's got my favorite substance, ammonia, anhydrous ammonia. No, not at all. Yeah, but they say, I come into this new facility. Maybe I don't know anything about anhydrous ammonia, but the PSM program has to be written. Well, my tendency as a safety professional, I'm just hypothetically saying mine because I wouldn't actually do this, but my tendency as a safety professional will be like, well, I'm just going to write this program. Let me dig into the stuff. There's experts for that. Chantel's the expert for physical therapy. I mean, like the stuff that you talked about with how you speak to a patient, how you educate them, how you empathize with them, all that kind of stuff are things that we could do, but they're not things that are necessarily appropriate for the safety professional to do because we just don't have that.
One of the things that I took away from y'all's talk at ASSP was that exactly what Jason's talking about right now. There's a lot of soft skills that are involved. And I really dislike the term soft skills because I think they're essential skills for what we do, but people that's the term it's known for. But y'all really discussed a lot of ways that we could do better in communication with our occupational medical providers to express those needs. And could y'all address those just a little bit about some of those soft skills or quote unquote essential skills?
Yeah. Rachel, you want to dive in or you?
Yeah, how about I start it from kind of like the safety standpoint, and then you can kind of take it from the clinical standpoint. Okay. So when we think of somebody who's gotten an injury at work, like we automatically kick into this safety cycle of doing our investigation, follow up, talking to the doctor, making sure they aren't prescribing, some prescription strength Tylenol or whatever, just to make sure that we are taking care of the recordables, getting them back to work on time, all of that sort of thing. So we kick into this mode really quick. And what happens is sometimes what gets communicated to the employee through that is that what gets communicated to the employee is that we're more concerned about getting them back to work and treating them as a sort of a pawn in the system rather than as a person who needs to heal. So a lot of what we talked about in the Safety Alliance is how we can change that narrative of how we're talking to people, but not just in safety, throughout anybody who has a touch point with that employee throughout their recovery.
The words that we choose to use and how that is being perceived by the individual that is hearing them. And we are a cog in the wheel in so many different ways. We're all a number in so many different ways. But when we know that a big part of our psychosocial risk factors is when we don't have support from management or from our coworkers. And that goes for literally any part of our work. We spend most of our lives at work. We want it to feel like a community and a family. And when you get hurt, it's worse, because now you're messing with both your physical and your psychological aspect of who you are as a person. And the worse the injury, the worse it is. Because let's take construction for example. I work with construction mostly as well. And those are trades that identify themselves as that trade. So if you are a carpenter and you hurt your dominant shoulder, who are you anymore? You can't do what you need to do. And so that really messes with your psyche. And then if they feel like they're only a cog in the wheel or a number on top of it, it just begins to compound how they're perceiving their injury, because now their injury isn't just a strain or even a tear that can heal. Now it's something much more catastrophic.
That's a huge point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you both talked in your session about like some sample talking points or methods of an HR person or safety person, basically anyone that has that touch point with the injured worker. But I think, Chantel, what you just said about how, and I know we all know this and have thought about this, how like a carpenter's identity, like they're a carpenter, iron workers, even worse, like that is who they are. You look at them, I look at people and I can see what trade they are. Like I know it's so ingrained. So
Sure.
like what if one of the initial
Yeah.
touch points with the injured worker was, it's something more humane? I know, especially in construction and some heavy industries, that your first thought is, oh, they're fine. Or you're right away, you're minimizing their injury, or not so much blaming them, but just kind of have like skepticism. Yeah, no, that can't be right.
Yeah.
So
I've done
what
that
if,
before.
how
Mhm.
can we start off the interactions with humanity and keeping in mind that that person's identity is tied to what they do for work?
So here's a question that I ask, because I have heard this from many safety professionals, and it is, so I ask them, why did you go to school?
I went to high school. My
Yeah,
parents
that's what I was
made
gonna say.
me.
My parents made
No,
me.
why did you go to school for safety? I was like, oh, which school?
Everybody gets into safety by accident.
That's
We have
true.
no good answers here.
That's it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Okay, I
But-
heard this one for you. You're not working with what I'm putting down. Okay, I have heard this one before, which is, I went into safety because I wanted to protect people, because I wanted to keep people safe.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know if that was like the initial reason why I personally got in, but I think it becomes part of what makes you stick with the profession. It feels like a very, right thing to do. Yeah.
I feel like you
Yeah.
bettered
Is-
the world a little bit if you did something.
But
Yeah.
that's the
Mhm.
purpose of being a safety professional, right? Like keeping
Yeah.
people safe, making sure they go home in the same condition that they came in, right? I mean, that's the purpose, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those careers where you feel like you do something positive most days.
You know, I'm gonna circle back real quick for like just in honor of Jason Maldonado real quick, because we were talking about how we have an automatic mindset of, oh, they're fine, they're tough, they can handle it,
Mhm.
based upon occupation and things like that. I've
Yeah.
found that over time there's also kind of an ageism in relation to workers, because when a younger worker gets hurt and it's a legitimate injury and they're really hurt, and your first thought when you get to the ripe old age that I'm at is,
Which is really old.
when we were younger, we would have never gone to the doctor for that.
Thanks, Gramps.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah, there are stereotypes, but every single new decade that comes in has the exact same thing to say. So they all have stereotypes, but it's all the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I was your age.
I want to throw out there at this point, though, I think this is important with us talking about, okay, how can we approach these injuries more humanely? One thing that we spoke about during our presentation was that pain and the severity of injury aren't as closely correlated as you would
Right.
think. So just because somebody has a high level of pain doesn't mean their injury is so much more severe than somebody who has a low level of pain. And it's also about how you think about your pain and approach your pain as well. And so that was something really interesting that I learned in the process of this, because, you take somebody who's maybe kind of got that tough guy attitude, and they may have a fairly serious injury, but they may process their pain a lot differently. And so you may not treat it like a serious injury because you don't know based on pain. They're like, yeah, I'm okay. Like, I'm gonna walk it off in
Rub some
10 years
dirt on it.
time, you know?
No,
Yeah.
but then what intrigued me, because I've always thought that, at least anecdotally, and I've been through some pretty bad injuries just, in my recreational time that I've been able to rehab in various ways. And, so I've got that background. Totally lost my train of thought. Anyway, I got it. The idea that all this was supported by research was just like mind blowing to me, because I've always thought it, and like, yeah, it's probably true. And then you guys actually dug it out and found it, and I was like, it is true. So that part was pretty cool too.
Yeah, people tend to believe me a little bit more if it's not what I think.
Hey, and I want to state for the record, that is the fastest
Yeah.
that I've ever gotten back on track, ever. Yeah.
But so maybe what you were also talking about in there is when we earn our injury, we think of it a lot differently, and we put more motivation into healing. We interpret it differently. We don't mind little aches and pains that we got because we earned it. We worked for that injury in the sense of I was, let's say it was in your sports days or motocross racing or whatever. I'm stereotyping here. Sorry, Jason. But but let's say, you were super passionate about that sport. Yeah. You loved that sport. You got injured. There are stories to tell, right? It's kind of a warrior's injury. Okay, but not work. People they don't want it. They didn't deserve it. They didn't earn it. And so it's you think about it so
when you're sore after like a 75-minute HIIT training, I mean, with that, you've earned that soreness, is what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. She's like, I got sore. I could do another 75 minutes pro.
I will tell you the secret to a 75-minute HIIT training. You go very hungover, and you're fine.
Oof, yeah, I've done it.
It's my specialty.
What do you...
No, I am sometimes sore. It depends.
I think that's interesting though too, because like in a way there is glory in certain injuries, right? Like sports injuries and stuff.
When I have a hard time like sitting down the next day, or when I'm like, do I really want to sit down again? Or when I'm sitting down, I have to get up. I'm like, do I really need to get up? You want to think about that when you're really sore, like after a leg day or something. I don't mind it.
Right.
I earned it.
And speaking of glory, this show would not be complete. Rachel's done it already, so we'll be nice. We'll subject you to a little bit, Rachel. But Chantel, you've never been through this portion of the show, and this is our favorite part. You are about to be subject to the lightning round, and it is a very near and dear part of the show to us. You're going to be asked a whole bunch of questions that have a whole lot to do with probably nothing, and you will have 10 seconds or less to answer it. And if you do not answer in 10 seconds or less, you will hear this sound.
That's what she said.
That's my favorite. This is my favorite.
I don't know.
And it works for today. We've got,
so anyway. Only questions for Chantel, unless you start off saying it's for Rachel.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I have some relevant questions for Chantel, just because I've been taking some notes.
I've got
here.
one.
So my first question is on total worker health. What can we do as safety professionals to really make sure that total worker health like sticks right now? Because it feels like it's kind of been around, but not really sticking. Is there something we can do, something we're missing?
Always, I think always keep the person first. So whether you're doing total worker health or the safety alliance, whatever it is, think about that person as a human being. You're putting them first.
So since we are new to video, and I thought it would be appropriate to show and tell with Chantel. So if you had to use, this is my favorite little arm roller, the Roleo Pro, little guillotine for your forearm there.
Ooh,
yeah,
I like it. Yeah,
it's pretty awful. If you had to use this for something other than what it was intended, what would it be and why?
What else would fit in there? A foot?
A lot of stuff.
I don't think I would. Oh, for your plantar fascia. Yeah, you could totally use that for your
Make
foot.
pasta. That's what you were supposed to say. You were supposed to say make pasta. But
Oh, I thought you meant a
no,
body
inappropriate.
part.
You could do a lot of inappropriate stuff with body parts too. Moving on.
All right, I'll go on.
Podcast is this.
Chantel, all right. If you had an unlimited supply of just one thing, what would it be?
Patience.
Like
100%.
the
I'm
people
super
kind or the
patient.
okay, never mind.
Patience.
Yeah.
They pay the bill.
Everything.
Not like a patient, but patience.
Yeah.
Patience.
Got it.
Not people.
That's awesome.
The ability to tolerate a lot of things at once.
So you mentioned super quick about OSHA first aid, and because I know other PTs that do on-site physical therapy, or it's not physical therapy, it's preventive. What is like one thing that you wish every safety professional knew about a physical therapist relationship to OSHA first aids?
That would be assuming PTs know what OSHA first aid is. Not all of them do. But the most important thing is it doesn't sound like there's a lot in there, but it's all you really need, because education and calming the individual and telling them they're going to be okay, they're going to heal is the biggest thing. Then it's just little things, just help them feel less pain. That's the point of first aid, help them feel less pain so their body can heal itself.
That's a great description of first aid.
All right. Well,
I like that.
I've actually got a question. I got a question for both of you that you don't have to answer together. Answer separately. What would the title of your autobiography be?
Oh.
Kicking
That's
ass
what
and
she
taking
said.
names.
So Chantel's is oh goodness, and
That's probably
and
that's
Rachel's
probably
is
it.
because you don't get to answer now, but Rachel's is kicking ass and taking names. I like it. Rachel, this one's for you. If you are now charged with inventing a new tool for Chantel to use in her practice. She has to use it every day. What is it, and how is she going to use it?
Have you guys read A Series of Unfortunate Events?
Ooh, I like where this is going. Mm-hmm.
It's like this hilarious kids book. If you don't like
10
kids
seconds
books,
or less.
it's still really funny. Yeah, Itali Grande, which is like a giant noodle.
Nice. I needed to hear that one before.
Can I eat it?
No, you can hit people with it.
Whacked you with my noodle.
And
Therapeutically.
probably like
Is it stretchy?
stretch. It would be used like an exercise band to help them stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, but in the book they hit people with it.
I've got one for Chantel. Are you ready? So what clothing item? Say you were on a date for the first time. It's a blind date. Okay. And your blind date walks in wearing what type of clothing item could they be wearing that you would be like, I'm done.
Ooh,
I'm done. I'm this date's over.
Oh boy, so many things. Something mismatched, or if it has holes, if it has like a t-shirt with holes, like definitely not.
I need to go change.
Or like
Hold
a
on.
lot of patterns. Like a lot of patterns. Mm-mm. No.
Rachel, you look so excited about that question. What is your answer to that question?
I was sure Chantel was going to come out with this, and I was like really excited. But I was
Leather.
thinking a Safety Justice League fanny pack.
Hey, that is marriage material. If you go on a date and somebody's wearing that,
Fashionable.
Well, if it's
functional.
got Jason Lucas's face on it, it better be Jason Lucas, or else you're like, why wouldn't I be with the guy who's on the fanny pack, not the one who's wearing it? You know?
there's only one that cool. Anyway,
I follow the logic. I got to know, what's Chantel's cheat day meal?
Pizza, probably. Except my body hates dairy, so I no longer put cheese on it. But it's still,
Cheese plus pizza.
it's still gluten, right?
Good stuff. More spicy that way.
Pizza, for sure.
That's
Pizza.
awesome. Well, before we adjourn, we've got a new segment that we're introducing on the show, and the other two hate it, but we're doing it anyway. It's time for your step up safety moment. We've come to notice that in recent days, recent episodes, we have fallen short. and we have not met your expectations, dear audience members. So we would like to provide you with some technical content for your safety knowledge and development. I'm going to read it to you now. Figure out where it came from. A standard is technologically feasible if the proactive measures it requires already exist, can be brought into existence with available technology, or can be created with technology that can be reasonably expected to be developed. And that has been your Step Up Safety Moment.
I don't think I've heard a full one of those yet. Like I'm
Zone out.
literally
How did
nodding
we get
off.
through
like,
safety
every
school?
time.
Like, how did we get to where we are? Like, we read stuff
No
like
idea.
that. Like,
And we're
Why
like,
though?
This
It
is
was
cool, and I
brutal.
want to keep doing it.
yeah, what?
I remember my ergonomics class being completely empty. Just like nobody even
What is
showed up
wrong with
anymore.
people? It's riveting.
It is.
And that's why we have three points of ergonomics that we worry about.
Like-
Nobody goes.
We got to get it in there for the 3 classes they actually show up to.
So sad. All right, so
I would just tell myself during those times, there are people who have entire degrees in this. I'll ask an ergonomist. I'm going. I'm leaving.
exactly. That was like the moral of this episode is bring in the expert.
Absolutely.
Just do it. So speaking of
Mhm.
that, where can our audience learn more about each of you? You can fight over who goes first.
Chantel's the
Well,
newbie.
yeah, sure. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's about it because I don't do a heck of a lot of social media. Sorry. But if you take a look at my company, which is Work Right Northwest, we do have a YouTube channel and our website, and you'll see me plastered all over the place, mostly because I've been there the longest, but you'll see myself and the owner everywhere.
So you can
That's
mainly
it.
find me on my YouTube channel, Ally Safety, or on Instagram at Ally Safety, or on Facebook at Ally Safety. And if you want to find me and Chantel together, check out our YouTube videos on preventing back injuries and preventing shoulder injuries. They are super fun. I ended up having to cut out a lot of the banter, but they turned out pretty good, and we had a lot of fun making them. And so far, the feedback has been really awesome. So check them out.
That's awesome. Well, hopefully you'll get some more feedback from our listeners because we're going to link all of that.
All of it.
All that stuff.
Wow.
the things.
All of
Everything.
it.
We hope our listeners give us feedback too in the forms of
Yeah.
reviews. That would be great.
Reviews. Yeah, that'd be nice. And if
Thanks,
Thanks,
listeners.
catch you
Thank
later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you on the next one.